She thought she was playing for fun. Then one bad bet put a wedding ring on her finger before sunrise. This is an original 5-episode story. Any resemblance to real people, places, or events is purely coincidental. By 11:30 on a Friday night, the pool table had become the center of the room. The bar itself wasn't flashy in the cheap way. It was polished wood, low gold lighting, dark bottles catching amber reflections, velvet booths, old jazz remixed into something smoother and meaner. The kind of place where people came dressed like they had somewhere more important to be afterward. The kind of place where everyone watched everyone else without admitting it. Iris Quinn had been watching the pool table for 10 minutes with the exact same expression she used when someone hung a painting too low. Not horror. Worse. Disappointment. She sat on a stool at the bar with her friends, one elbow hooked lazily over the counter, a half-finished whiskey sour in front of her, her dark blonde curls already a little looser from the heat and the alcohol. She wore a faded vintage t-shirt tucked into dark jeans, a charcoal blazer thrown over the back of her stool, several silver rings catching the light each time she lifted her glass. She looked relaxed until you noticed her eyes. Then you saw it. Attention. Judgment. Amusement. 3 men at the table were taking turns playing badly while talking loudly enough to make the whole room suffer through it. God, Iris muttered, watching one of them lean over the table with all the grace of a folding chair. That stance is a hate crime. Her friend Tori burst out laughing. You say that every time anyone touches a cue. Because every time someone touches a cue in this city, they do it like they're trying to fight off a raccoon. Another friend, Maya, swiveled on her stool. You could stop watching. I could, Iris said. She did not stop watching. Across the room, at a round table near the windows, Claire Donovan noticed her. Claire had noticed her 8 minutes ago, to be exact. At first, it had been the hair. Shoulder-length brunette hair, glossy under the low light, elegant without trying too hard. Then it had been the posture. Claire sat like someone who had spent years in rooms where posture did half the negotiating. One leg crossed over the other, black trousers tailored within an inch of perfection, silk top under a cream jacket that looked expensive because it was, diamond earrings understated only to people who had never needed to sell a piece of jewelry to make rent. Her watch alone probably cost more than the entire pool table. But the thing that had really caught Iris's attention was not the money. It was the self-possession. Claire didn't fidget. Didn't reach for her phone every 15 seconds. Didn't laugh too loudly to prove she was having a good time. She listened when people spoke. She tilted her head when amused. When she smiled, she did it like she meant it and like she didn't do it for free. And twice now she had looked directly at Iris. Not by accident. The first time, Iris looked away first. The second time she didn't. At Claire's table, someone was telling a story about a gallery opening in Soho, and Claire was only half listening. Her friend Dana followed her gaze and smirked. You're staring. I'm observing. Claire sipped her bourbon. The woman at the bar has been personally offended by that pool game for the last 10 minutes. Dana glanced over. Cute. Claire stood. Dana blinked. That's all it takes. Claire set down her glass. Apparently. Should we wish you luck? Claire's mouth curved. You should wish her luck. She crossed the room without rushing. Iris saw her coming and had exactly enough time to think, oh no, she's gorgeous, before Claire stopped beside her stool and let her gaze drift briefly toward the pool table. Then she said, in a voice smooth enough to sound polite and dangerous at the same time, you're looking at that table like you disapprove on a professional level. Should I assume you actually know how to play? Tori went dead still. Maya choked on her drink. Iris slowly turned her head and looked up at the stranger standing beside her. Up close, Claire was worse. Or better. Depends who was suffering. She was tall. Not dramatically, but enough to force Iris to lift her chin slightly. Brown eyes. Clean makeup. Sharp cheekbones softened by a mouth that seemed permanently on the verge of either a smile or a bad idea. Iris took a slow sip of her whiskey sour. Depends, she said. Are you asking because you're curious, or because your ego needs entertainment? Dana, still at Claire's table, actually laughed out loud. Claire's expression didn't change much, but something lit in her eyes. Interesting answer. Accurate answer. Claire glanced at the pool table again, where one of the men had just missed an easy shot and blamed the cue stick like it had betrayed him personally. Iris let out a disbelieving sound. Claire caught it. So that's a yes, Claire said. You do know how to play. Iris set her glass down. I know how to play better than that, which is admittedly a low bar. That still leaves room for exaggeration. Iris looked her up and down, openly now. The watch, the earrings, the beautifully cut jacket, the expensive calm. Then she said, "And you came over here to challenge me or flirt with me?" Claire's smile finally arrived. "Can't I do both?" Tori made a strangled sound into her cocktail. Iris should have laughed her off. Really, she should have. Instead, she tilted her head and asked, "Do you actually play?" "I prefer not to humiliate strangers without giving them a fair chance first." "Oh wow." Iris slid off her stool. "You're annoying already. And yet you stood up." Their friends reacted exactly the way friends were born to react when two attractive women started circling each other over a game and an obvious bad decision. Tori slapped the bar once and pointed. "Oh, we're doing this. Fantastic." Maya raised her glass. "Please ruin each other's lives respectfully." Claire glanced over at Iris's friends. "You have charming support." Iris reached for her blazer, then thought better of it and left it on the stool. "They're vultures." "Mine too," Claire said, glancing back toward Dana and the others at her table. "They'll recover." Someone vacated the pool table under combined pressure from the crowd and the fact that the original players had become too embarrassed to keep going. Claire picked up a cue. Iris took another. They moved around the table like they had been doing this together for years, not seconds. "So," Claire said, chalking the tip with careful ease. "Do I get a name before I lose gracefully?" Iris leaned on her cue and gave her a look. "You're planning your exit already?" "I'm planning my options." "Iris." Claire repeated it once softer. "Iris." She said it like she was testing the shape of it. Iris hated that she liked the sound of her own name in this woman's mouth. "And you?" Iris asked. "Claire." The name fit her so well Iris wanted to be annoyed about it. "Claire what?" "Donovan." There it was. "Of course." Iris snorted. "That is the most expensive-sounding name I've heard all week." Claire's mouth twitched. "You say that like it offends you." "It does a little." "Then you should beat me quickly." They flipped for the break. Claire won. Her opening shot was clean. Not lucky. Not flashy. Clean. Iris's brows rose before she could stop them. Claire noticed. "Oh, don't do that," Claire said mildly. "Do what?" "Look surprised." "It's insulting." Iris moved to the table for her turn. "I'm adjusting my expectations." Dangerous habit. Iris bent over the table, lined up her shot, and sank two solids in a row with the kind of effortless precision that made the room notice. A few heads turned. Someone at the bar clapped once. Tori whistled. Claire went still for half a second. Then she smiled. "Ah," she said. "So that's what this is." Iris straightened. "What?" "You really are judging professionally." "I own a gallery," Iris said. "Judging professionally is most of my job." Claire leaned lightly on her cue, interest sharpening. "You own it. A small one." "You said that like I'm supposed to be less impressed." "You probably own buildings." "I own opinions mostly." Iris laughed despite herself. "That is such a rich person answer." "And that," Claire said, "is such a woman who wants to be a right answer." "Wanting and being aren't the same thing." "No," Claire agreed. "But for you, I suspect they overlap often." Their friends began losing interest in the game itself and more interest in the tension around it. Within minutes, Tori and Maya migrated toward the bar again, still watching between sips. Claire's friends did the same. The pool table, once crowded, seemed to develop a perimeter around just the two of them. The first game turned mean quickly. Claire was good. Iris was better. Not by a humiliating margin, which somehow made it more personal. By the time Iris sank the 8-ball and straightened, there was a pleased flush in her cheeks that had very little to do with the whiskey sour and everything to do with the look Claire gave her. Not wounded. Delighted. Claire set her cue down. "Well." Iris folded her arms. "Well. One more. You don't like losing." "I don't like unfinished data." Iris laughed again. It came easier now, warm and unwilling. "That's a terrible excuse." "It's a valid one." Claire signaled the bartender with 2 fingers. "We should add stakes." Tori, eavesdropping shamelessly from 5 feet away, nearly choked. "Yes, please." Iris turned. "You are way too invested." "Your honor is on the line," Tori said. "And hers, whatever that costs." Claire glanced at Iris. "Would you prefer we play for money?" Iris made a face. Boring. For drinks. Predictable. Claire considered her for a beat, then let her gaze drop to Iris's faded t-shirt. The corner of her mouth lifted. No, Iris said immediately. I didn't say anything. You were about to. Claire's expression was innocent in a way that was absolutely not innocent. I was only thinking. Dangerous habit. I learned from you. Iris narrowed her eyes. Then, because she was 2 drinks in and because Claire Donovan looked like a challenge God had personally tailored for her ego, she tugged once at the hem of her t-shirt. This. Claire's gaze flicked to the black camisole strap barely visible at Iris's shoulder, then back to her face. If you're suddenly shy, we can lower the stakes. Iris barked out a laugh. Lower them? Sweetheart, this shirt cost $22. Vintage. Accidentally. Claire's brows rose. Then it may be priceless. Fine, Iris said. If I lose this round, you get the shirt. Claire tilted her head. And if I lose? Iris's eyes slid to the small diamonds at Claire's ears. Claire saw it happen and smiled before Iris even spoke. Oh, Claire murmured. Bold. You asked. Claire touched one earring lightly. These. Iris shrugged with deceptive carelessness. Unless they're fake. Dana made a deeply scandalized noise from the bar. Claire did not look away from Iris. They're not fake. Then don't lose. For a second, neither of them moved. It was the kind of pause that could have turned into something else if they had been anywhere but a bar with a pool table between them. Claire picked up her cue. The second game drew a bigger crowd. Word had spread, or maybe people were just naturally drawn to scenes with too much chemistry and the promise of public bad decisions. Either way, by the third shot, there were 6 strangers pretending not to watch and failing. Claire broke harder this time. Iris took more risks. They talked less, but when they did, the lines landed lower and closer. At one point, Claire stepped in to take a shot just as Iris moved around the corner of the table. They stopped inches apart. Claire's perfume was subtle and expensive and impossible. Iris smelled like citrus, whiskey, and some soft, clean note Claire couldn't place because she was too busy noticing the pulse at the base of Iris's throat. Careful, Claire said quietly. Why? Iris asked. You look distracted. Iris's grip tightened on the cue. I'm not distracted. Claire's eyes dipped, just once, to Iris's mouth. Good, she said. Then you'll recover quickly. By the time Claire lost the second game by a single impossible bank shot that made the room erupt, even she laughed. Real laughter. Head tipping back briefly. Shoulders loosening. Iris stood there with her cue in one hand, grinning like a thief under cathedral lights. Take them off, she said. Claire touched her earrings. You enjoy this too much. Yes. Claire removed them one at a time, calm as a queen and just as irritating. When she stepped closer and placed them in Iris's palm, her fingers closed lightly over Iris's hand for half a second too long. Try not to pawn them out of spite, Claire murmured. Iris looked down at the diamonds in her hand, then up at the woman who had just handed them over without a flinch. You're insane. And yet you're smiling. Iris realized too late that she was. Claire saw that too. The room blurred at the edges after that, the way great nights sometimes do, everything sharpening and softening at once. Torai and Maya drifted back to the bar. Dana and the rest of Claire's table lost interest in intervening and became invested in watching a very elegant train wreck unfold. More drinks arrived. Someone put money on the edge of the table, betting on who would kiss who first. No one admitted it, but the pool game had stopped being the main event 20 minutes ago. Claire ordered tequila. Iris objected on principle and then took the shot anyway. They played again. And again. Not always keeping score. Sometimes deliberately brushing past one another around the corners of the table. Sometimes talking with a softness that made no sense in the middle of all that noise. Why a gallery? Claire asked at one point. Because I was stupid enough to think I could build something fragile and survive on it. Claire leaned against the table. And did you? Depends on the month. Honest. Usually. Claire watched her. I like that. Do you? Yes. Iris tilted her head. You don't know me. Claire's gaze held hers steadily. I know you hate bad pool, cheap flattery, and the idea of me assuming anything about you. That's enough for one night. Iris should have looked away. She didn't. And if you love a story where 2 women ruin each other's peace in designer heels and barlight honesty, subscribe now. Because Claire Donovan and Iris Quinn were nowhere near done with each other. The third serious game started because Iris laughed at one of Claire's shots and Claire, instead of being offended, went very still. That stillness was worse. What? Iris asked. Claire set down her drink. Now I have to win. Why? You laughed. I do that. At me. Often, probably. Claire stepped closer, just enough to make the air change. Then let's make this one worth remembering. Iris folded her arms. Go on. Claire glanced toward the door, where through the front windows the city lights glowed over a line of expensive cars parked outside. Then she said, If I win, we get married tonight and sign a 1-year contract. Silence. Even the bartender turned. Tori actually slapped the bar. Maya's jaw dropped. Dana put down her drink very carefully, like fast movement might make reality worse. Iris stared at Claire for a long second. Then she laughed. Not a polite laugh. A full, disbelieving, bright laugh that made half the room grin just because it was impossible not to. Oh, that is the dumbest thing anyone said to me this year. Claire nodded once. Probably. You cannot be serious. Claire's brows lifted. You haven't heard the rest. There's more. If I lose, I give you my car. That shut Iris up. Not because she believed Claire. Because she did. She glanced toward the front windows again. There, angled beneath the streetlight, was a car so expensive it looked unreal in the reflection. Iris turned slowly back to Claire. That car? Yes. Tori whispered, Jesus Christ. Maya whispered back, Don't stop her. Iris squinted. Why would you do that? Claire's smile was smaller now. More private. More dangerous. Because I hate half measures. That is not a normal sentence. I've never claimed to be normal. Iris let out a shaky breath that sounded too much like excitement. You want to marry a stranger over pool. I want to see if you'll say yes. That landed somewhere under Iris's ribs and stayed there. She should have walked away. Absolutely should have. She knew it. Her friends knew it. The bartender definitely knew it. But there was the car. And there were the earrings in her pocket. And there was Claire Donovan. Looking at her like this entire absurd night was somehow the most interesting thing that had happened to her in months. Iris licked her lips once. 1 year. 1 year. And then. If it fails, we divorce. If it doesn't, we don't. You are out of your mind. Claire's eyes warmed. You haven't said no. Iris's pulse beat hard in her throat. Fine, she said at last. But if I win, I want the car in my name, not some rich person lease trick. Dana made a strangled sound. Claire. Claire didn't even glance back. Done. Tori covered her face with both hands and spoke through them. I need another drink to witness this. Noted, Maya said. I need several. Claire extended her hand across the edge of the pool table. Iris looked at it, then took it. Claire's grip was warm, firm, elegant, maddening. Deal, Claire said. Deal, Iris answered. They played. It was the best game of the night. No crowd noise anymore, not really. Just a low blur around the edges of concentration. Claire's focus sharpened. Iris's grin vanished. They stopped flirting out loud because they were too busy doing it with their eyes. Every shot mattered. Every miss stung. At one point, Claire leaned over the table to line up a difficult cut, and Iris found herself watching the controlled line of her shoulders instead of the ball. Claire sank it clean. Distracted. Claire asked without looking up. Iris blinked. Shut up. The game stretched longer than the others. Both of them good enough to make it hurt and close enough to make it personal. Claire looked infuriatingly composed even with tequila in her system. Iris looked alive in a way that made composure seem overrated. They were down to the last few balls when Iris clipped one just wide. The room exhaled. Claire stepped up. She did not rush. She took the shot. Sank it. Then the next. And then, after a pause so deliberate Iris could have screamed, the 8-ball dropped into the corner pocket with a satisfying finality that felt rude. For half a second, nobody moved. Then Dana laughed first, long and delighted. Tori swore. Maya yelled, No way. The bartender actually applauded. Somewhere near the door, a stranger shouted, Get married. Iris stood frozen with her cue in hand. Claire straightened slowly and set her own cue down. The smile she gave Iris then was not triumphant. It was worse. Tenderly amused. Like Iris had just walked into something magnificent and idiotic, and Claire was letting her decide which word applied. Well, Claire said. Iris stared at her. This is criminal. You agreed. You cheated. Claire looked genuinely offended. I absolutely did not. You definitely did something rich. Dana leaned in from across the table. That is not a legal argument, Iris. Iris pressed the heels of her hands to her eyes and laughed once, sharp and helpless. When she looked up again, Claire was still there. Still waiting. Still serious. Oh, she really meant it. You're not joking, Iris said. No. The room seemed to narrow. Iris's friends watched her carefully now, their laughter fading into concern and disbelief, and the kind of excitement people only feel when they know someone they love is about to do something irreversibly stupid. Claire held her gaze and said, "Quieter now. You can still back out." That should have made it easier. Instead, it made Iris straighten, because now it sounded like mercy. And Iris Quinn had never been good at accepting mercy from women who looked at her like that. "No," she said. Tori's mouth dropped open. Iris didn't turn. "I said deal." Claire studied her for one beat longer, then nodded once. "Then let's get married." The rest happened too fast and too clearly. That was the problem. If it had been a blur, Iris could have dismissed it later as a drunken haze. But no, parts of it stood out with terrifying, ridiculous precision. The chill of night air when they stepped outside. Claire's hand at the small of her back, guiding her toward the waiting car. Tori and Maya piling into another rideshare behind them, because apparently friendship included witnessing self-inflicted disasters. Dana in the front passenger seat of Claire's car, already on the phone with someone and saying, "No, I'm serious. Is the officiant still available?" The driver pretending not to listen and failing. Iris turning toward Claire in the back seat and saying, "Tell me you've never done this before." Claire looked at her, moonlight and city light crossing her face in flashes as they drove. "I've never married anyone over pool before, no." That is not the comforting answer. Claire's mouth curved. Good. They ended up at a small private chapel hidden between a florist that had closed hours ago and a boutique hotel that never slept. It wasn't tacky, which somehow made it worse. White lights. Marble floor. Fresh flowers that looked like someone had replaced them recently. A woman at the front desk who took one look at Claire Donovan, and not nearly enough time to make things legal. Iris laughed twice out of sheer disbelief before anyone handed her forms. Then she stopped laughing. Because the forms were real. IDs were checked. Names were spelled correctly. An officiant appeared, silver-haired, brisk, amused in the way only older women who had seen everything could be amused. "Still want to do this?" she asked them both. Claire answered first. "Yes." Iris looked at Claire. Claire looked back. No pressure in it now. No manipulation. Just that same impossible steadiness. Iris felt something hot and reckless and thrilling move through her chest. "Yes," she heard herself say. Tori covered her own mouth and whispered. "She said yes like she's in a movie." Maya whispered back. "She is in a movie." Dana got handed a witness line. So did Tori, because apparently chaos liked symmetry. Then came the contract. Not pages and pages. Not predatory. Not a trap disguised as a romance. One page. Simple. Clean. Almost absurdly direct. Claire read it once, then handed it to Iris. At the top were their names. Under that, "We got married of our own free will and agreed to give this marriage 1 year. We are signing this contract so we do not run at the first sign of difficulty like most couples. We are fully committed to this marriage and will live it like any other married couple, with all the attributes of marriage. We agree to live under one roof in Claire Donovan's apartment for the duration of this 1-year trial marriage, so we can give it a fair chance and do everything possible to make it work. If after 1 year nothing works, we will divorce. If it does, we will stay married." At the bottom were signature lines for both of them and for the witnesses. Iris stared at the page. "This is insane," she whispered. Claire stood close enough for Iris to feel her warmth at her side. "Probably. You had this ready awfully fast." Claire's expression turned shamelessly calm. Dana knows a lawyer who enjoys chaos. Dana, without an ounce of guilt, raised a hand. "He owed me a favor." The officiant read the page, then nodded. "No one is promising property. No one is threatening anyone. No one is under duress. Strange, but not my strangest Friday." Tori was openly crying with laughter now. "Please frame that." Iris should have stopped right there. Instead, she looked at Claire. Claire, with her shoulder-length brown hair a little softer now, earrings gone, expensive jacket open, brown eyes warm and unwavering. Claire, who had not once spoken to Iris like she was a game to collect. Claire, who was clearly out of her mind. Iris signed. Claire signed after her. Dana signed. Tori signed. The officiant signed where needed. The witness lines were filled. The page was copied. A photo was taken. Then another. And then somehow they were standing beneath soft chapel lights. Rings temporarily borrowed from the tiny velvet tray the officiant had shoved toward them, because apparently this establishment respected commitment and accessories. Claire slid a ring onto Iris's finger with a steadiness that did awful things to Iris's pulse. Iris did the same to Claire and then said, because silence would have killed her, if this is an elaborate tax strategy, I'll be deeply offended. Claire actually laughed during the ceremony. The officiant smiled. Would either of you like to say anything before I make this legal? Claire turned her head and looked directly at Iris. There were 100 jokes available. She didn't take any of them. I keep my word, she said simply. And if we're doing this, I'll do it properly. The room went quiet. Something in Iris's chest tightened hard. Then the officiant looked at Iris. And maybe it was the tequila or the diamonds in her pocket or the fact that Claire Donovan had just said properly like it mattered. But Iris lifted her chin and said, I don't quit just because something scares me. Claire's eyes changed. It was tiny, but Iris saw it. Saw the impact. Saw the sudden recognition like something had clicked into place. The officiant, clearly enjoying herself now, declared them married. There was cheering. Too much cheering. Dana clapped like she had bet money. Tori screamed. Maya took 30 photos in 3 seconds. And Iris. Iris did the worst possible thing. She turned, grabbed Claire lightly by the lapels of her jacket, and kissed her. It wasn't careful. It wasn't polite. It was bright, reckless, warm with tequila and triumph, and the kind of decision you could only make once before the universe started expecting things from you. Claire made a quiet sound against her mouth, surprised, then pleased, and one of her hands came to Iris's waist as though it had always belonged there. Somewhere behind them, Maya shouted, Oh, now she kisses her. Iris broke the kiss just enough to grin, drunk on adrenaline now as much as anything else. She turned her face toward her phone when Tori shoved it at her and, laughing, pulled Claire closer from behind, pressing a kiss to the side of Claire's neck while the camera flashed. In the picture, Claire was smiling in that restrained, beautiful way of hers, while Iris looked gloriously guilty. Then another photo. Iris half in Claire's lap on one of the chapel chairs, chin lifted toward the camera, Claire's hand at her waist. Then one more. A post-ceremony shot, Iris cupping Claire's face to kiss her again while Dana yelled for them to hold still and neither of them listened. Then a short video, shot on Iris's phone by Maya, shaky with laughter, where Iris leaned into frame, pointed at Claire with the solemnity of a drunk woman making history, and announced, My wife is ridiculously hot. Claire, beside her, only smiled that maddeningly controlled smile and said, You're very loud. I'm newly married, Iris declared. I'm allowed. You made that rule up. And yet you married me anyway. Claire looked at her for a beat that felt like an answer to something much older than the last 2 hours. Yes, she said. That word lingered. It got quieter after that. Not immediately. There were signatures to collect, copies of papers to hand over, witness congratulations, too many photos, 2 calls ignored by Claire, 1 by Iris, and at least 1 champagne bottle produced by someone at the chapel who clearly loved a dramatic couple. But later, in the back of Claire's car, the city sliding past in dark reflections, the noise settled. Iris sat angled toward the window at first, the contract copy folded in her bag, Claire's earrings tucked carefully into her pocket, ring too heavy and too real on her finger. Claire sat beside her with one arm stretched along the seat, not touching, not pushing. The restraint was somehow more intimate than if she had. You regret it already? Claire asked quietly. Iris looked over. Should I? I'm asking you. You first. Claire considered that. No. The honesty of it hit harder than it should have. Why not? Claire's gaze moved over Iris's face like she was reading something there. Because tonight stopped being a joke an hour ago. Iris swallowed. That, she said after a second, is not helping. Claire's smile returned smaller now. Good. When they reached Claire's apartment, Iris understood expensive in a whole new category. Not gaudy. Not vulgar. Just devastatingly, offensively beautiful. High ceilings. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Art chosen by someone with taste, instead of a decorator trying to prove they had it. Warm lamps. Dark stone countertops. A view of the city that made Iris's tiny gallery office seem like a storage closet in comparison. She turned in a slow circle just inside the entryway. Oh, absolutely not. Claire took off her jacket and draped it over a chair. That sounds dramatic. You live here? Yes. Alone? Yes. Iris looked at the contract again in her bag, as if the clause about living under one roof might spontaneously become less threatening in worse real estate. This is intimidation by square footage. Claire leaned one shoulder against the wall, watching her with open amusement. It's an apartment, Iris, not a monarchy. Debatable. Dana dropped the extra paperwork on the counter and announced, I'm leaving before this gets either emotional or illegal. Tori hugged Iris hard enough to nearly knock her sideways. Call me the second you wake up and realize what you've done. I know what I've done, Iris said. Maya snorted. No, you know what you signed. Different thing. Then, like decent friends and terrible witnesses, they all left. The apartment went quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't really feel like silence when there's another person in it. Iris stood near the island in Claire's kitchen, still clutching her purse, still wearing her ring, still very aware of the woman watching her across 10 feet of polished stone and bad ideas. Claire poured water into 2 glasses and handed one over. Iris took it. Their fingers brushed. Again, that little spark. Again, too much. Claire nodded toward the guest room hallway, then stopped herself and corrected, Actually, that would be ridiculous. Iris lifted a brow. What would? Offering you the guest room on our wedding night. Heat rose up Iris's throat in one swift, humiliating rush. Claire took a sip of water like she hadn't just set the entire room on fire. Then she said, mild as ever. Unless you're backing out already. Iris set down the glass. Don't do that. Do what? Talk like you know exactly what I'll do. Claire's gaze dropped briefly to Iris's mouth and back up. I don't know exactly. I have some promising theories. That was how they ended up too close again. No pool table this time. No audience. No music loud enough to excuse anything. Just the city glowing through the windows, 2 women still warm with alcohol and ceremony, and the impossible fact of each other. Iris took the first step. Maybe because she had already kissed Claire once in public and needed to prove that hadn't been tequila fiction. Maybe because Claire had been composed all night and Iris suddenly, fiercely wanted to be the reason she lost that composure. Maybe because the word wife had lodged somewhere under her skin and she wanted to hear how it sounded against a mouth. She moved in, slid one hand into Claire's open jacket, and kissed her again. This one lasted longer. Claire set her empty glass down without looking, one hand coming to Iris's waist, the other bracing lightly at the back of her neck. Iris felt herself pulled closer with a control that was unmistakably Claire's. Not rough, not hesitant, just sure. Heat bloomed instantly. Claire kissed like she played pool, precise at first, then devastating once she found the angle. Iris made a soft sound into her mouth that she would have denied under oath. Claire's thumb brushed the line of her jaw. Iris kissed her harder. That got her a reaction. A real one. Claire's careful breath breaking, her hand tightening at Iris's waist, their bodies aligning in a way that sent a clear, dangerous message in every direction. Iris pulled back enough to murmur, You planned this. Claire's lips curved against hers. No. You definitely did something rich. Claire laughed quietly, forehead resting once against Iris's. That again. It's my best legal theory. And it remains terrible. They kissed again. Moved. Half walked, half stumbled toward the bedroom. Claire lost a hair clip somewhere near the hallway. Iris nearly tripped laughing. Claire caught her by the hips and kissed the laugh right out of her. At the edge of the bed, they stopped. Not because they didn't want more. Because the room had tilted. Because tequila and champagne and adrenaline and midnight vows were finally collecting their debt. Iris sat down hard on the mattress and laughed again, this time with one hand over her face. Oh, this is humiliating. Claire, standing in front of her with hair slightly mussed and lips absolutely ruined in the best possible way, looked down at her and started laughing too. It transformed her. Took 10 years off the polish. Made her look younger, brighter, almost reckless herself. Iris pointed at her. You're not allowed to look that pleased. I just married a woman who nearly robbed me of my car and then attacked me in a chapel, Claire said. I'm entitled to a little pleasure. Attacked you? You were aggressive. You loved it. Claire did not deny that. Instead, she bent, pressed a kiss to Iris's forehead that was so unexpectedly soft it almost undid her, and said, "Sleep before you injure your pride further." Iris looked up at her, suddenly very aware of how strange and tender and impossible the whole night had become. "Are we really doing this?" she asked. Claire's expression gentled. "Yes," she said. That was the last clear thing Iris remembered before sleep took her. The next morning began with sunlight, a headache, and a ring. Iris blinked at the ceiling once, twice, then pushed herself upright so fast the room punished her for it. She was in a bedroom she didn't know. Huge windows, expensive sheets, one heel on the floor, the other somehow near the chair. Her phone charging on the nightstand. A glass of water. A bottle of aspirin. The ring on her finger flashed. "No," she whispered. Then louder, "No." Memory returned in jagged, glittering pieces. Pool table. Diamonds. Chapel lights. Claire. The contract. The kiss. The apartment. Oh God. Iris stumbled out of bed and found Claire in the kitchen already dressed, hair smooth at her shoulders, a mug of coffee in one hand and absolute composure radiating from every inch of her. She had changed into high-waisted black trousers and a pale blouse with the sleeves rolled once. Not a robe. Not a hangover. Not a single visible crack in the armor. Iris, in yesterday's jeans and one sock, stared at her in outrage. Claire took one look at her and, incredibly, almost smiled. "No," Iris said again, because apparently she had lost all vocabulary except denial. "No. We are not married." Claire set down her mug. "Good morning to you too. I'm serious." "So am I." This was a joke. It really wasn't. I was drunk. So was I. I did not agree to a real marriage. Claire's expression stayed calm, not cold, worse patient. Like Iris was panicking on schedule. Then Claire said, exactly and without hurry, "You kiss me first." Iris opened her mouth. Claire continued, "You were the one pushing for the wedding night. It didn't happen because we were drunk." Claire, "So we'll continue tonight." Iris actually choked on air. "Tonight." Claire lifted her mug again and took a sip like she had not just destroyed the structural integrity of the morning. Iris stared at her. "You're insane." Claire set the mug down once more. "And if you don't believe you started all of this, check your phone." Iris glared at her for a second longer out of principle, then snatched up the phone from the counter where she must have dropped it and unlocked it with unsteady fingers. The camera roll opened. Photo 1. Claire in chapel light, smiling that restrained, beautiful smile, while Iris, traitorous, shameless Iris, had her arms looped around Claire's shoulders and was kissing her neck like she had been born to scandalize expensive women. Photo 2. A selfie. Iris pressed against Claire's side, grinning at the camera, Claire's hand steady at her waist, both of them wearing rings. Photo 3. The kiss after the ceremony. Not distant. Not performative. Real enough to make Iris's stomach drop. And then the video. Maya's laughter behind the camera. Iris leaning into frame, flushed and glowing and catastrophically happy, pointing at Claire and announcing, "My wife is ridiculously hot." Claire beside her, elegant and amused and very, very married. "You're very loud," video Claire said. "I'm newly married," video Iris declared. "I'm allowed. You made that rule up. And yet you married me anyway." Then Claire, in the video and in the kitchen memory of Iris's rapidly collapsing dignity, looked at her and said, "Yes." Iris lowered the phone with excruciating slowness. "This is slander." Claire's brow lifted. "By your own camera roll?" Iris looked betrayed by technology itself. "Delete all of it." "No. That is my face. That is also my face." Iris closed her eyes briefly and inhaled through her nose. "This can be fixed." Claire did not move. "You signed it too." Iris's eyes snapped open. Claire held her gaze. "Deal with it." The words landed with impossible calm. Then the final blow. "Be an excellent wife and I'll be one too." Iris stared at her. At the coffee. At the ring. At the woman who looked maddeningly awake and very clearly meant every word. With shaking fingers, Iris opened the email app where a message sat timestamped 2:14 a.m., subject line, documents. Inside was a clean scan of the marriage certificate. Below it, the contract. Their names. Their signatures. Dana's signature. Tori's signature. And the clause. We agreed to live under one roof in Claire Donovan's apartment for the duration of this one-year trial marriage, so we can give it a fair chance and do everything possible to make it work. Iris looked up slowly from the screen. Claire was watching her over the rim of her coffee mug. Not smug, not cruel, just steady. Bossy in that impossible Claire way. Like the world had already turned one click and expected Iris to catch up. Iris's voice came out hoarse. You put in the apartment clause. You signed it. I was drunk. You were articulate. I hate you. Claire's mouth curved at last, small and devastating. No, you don't. Iris wanted to deny it. She wanted to throw the phone, run out barefoot, call a lawyer, call Tori, call God. Instead, she stood there in Claire Donovan's kitchen, hungover and married, with proof in her own hand and Claire's diamonds still in her pocket from the night before. Claire glanced toward the hallway, then back at her. Your side of the closet is the one on the left, she said. And that was when Iris realized this was not going to disappear by noon.